Holy what have I got myself into? I can't believe I'm actually hiking 500 miles self-supported. I got injured on mile 160, which we're going to talk about in a second. I did have a bit of a scary moment though in the middle of the night. I needed a piss. I went out, I opened the door, and then I just saw glowing eyes in front of me. There must have been about 12 eyes just staring back at me. Call me a pussy, but I'm not taking any chances. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Howard and I'm a level 4 strength and conditioning coach who's just left the RAF, now living in Thailand. And on this channel, I help you build an aesthetic physique, a robust mindset, and a healthier and happier lifestyle. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my 500-mile hike covering the UK free peaks that I did on the 16th of January, raising £1,600 for SAFA and Armed Forces charity, where my mindset and my physicality was tested and I was pushed to my limits. I'll be showing you how I prepared to hike 500 miles and what it really takes to do something this big. Now, before I tell you exactly what happened during this hike and all the struggles that I went through, I'm going to tell you exactly what I did to prepare for this hike. So I didn't really stick to a specific training program because I was training for inconvenience, which sounds a little bit strange. I knew for a fact during the 500-mile hike, the whole thing would be inconvenient. I knew for a fact that on some days it would be raining, snowing, heavy pack, hills, all sorts, all at once. So I needed to replicate that in my training. Another thing that I did was I hiked 20 miles without breaking boots in my preparation because I knew for a fact that during the actual 500-mile hike I was gonna get some blisters. I would train twice a day in my preparation, normally doing strength training specifically on the legs because I knew that they'd take a battering, especially on the West Highland Way in Scotland. So I would do normally a leg session in the morning in squadron, and then in the evening, maybe around 9 p.m, 10 p.m, I would literally drive 20 minutes off my RAF base and get a session in. That might have been a Stairmaster session or another strength session, maybe a little bit of cardio, or I might have stayed on camp and done a TAB. TAB is a tactical advance to battle. There are other names for TAB like rucking or weighted march. So I'd normally put on about 15 to 20 kilograms in my rucksack and then just go for sort of 10 to 15 miles. And that was my preparation. Now, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I also did weekly wild camps as this was a wild camping challenge. However, I got injured on mile 160, which we're going to talk about in a second. So I wasn't able to continue the wild camp. I had to change the challenge slightly because I chose the hardest challenge. I chose it self-supported in winter with all that weight, 23 kilograms of kit for the first 160 miles. Most of the time people do it in the summer and supported where they don't have any weight and they've got a full support team. So in total, I trained for around 6 months before the actual hike. If you're going to do a challenge like this, something as big as this, I highly recommend that you take some time and you leave yourself enough preparation so you do get the right kit and you do these challenges in a safe manner, because as soon as I finished this challenge, there was 2 lads that died on Ben Nevis and 2 lads that died on Snowdon within 4 weeks of me completing this challenge. So I remember very clearly the day that I set off to Fort William to start my challenge. Fort William is the town where Ben Nevis is located. So I had to take a train from Doncaster all the way up to Fort William through Glasgow. It was a long journey. I was pretty nervous and I remember it was a very quiet train, especially on the train from Glasgow to Fort William. There was no one on the train and it was freezing. It was very dark outside, very cold, and I knew that I would have to leave that train and go hike Ben Nevis and do the West Highland Way in those conditions. Holy fuck, what have I got myself into? I can't believe I'm actually hiking 500 miles self-supported in these conditions because they were really bad. I remember seeing on the previous day that on the summit of Ben Nevis, it was about 90-mile-an-hour wind speeds. And that's dangerous, that you wouldn't ever do a hike up Ben Nevis when it's 90 miles per hour wind speeds. If you're inspired by watching this video and you're a young man looking to reset, have a happier, healthier lifestyle, get back in the gym, get back on the healthy eating, and become the best version of yourself, then I've created a free guide which you can find in the link in the description, and it will help you become that best version of yourself. All you have to do is give me your email and I'll send that free guide straight away, and it's going to help you improve your life. So the first day was when I pitched up at Glen Nevis campsite and reduced all my pack weight. So I pitched the tent up and got the sleeping bag out, got the roll mat out, and put all the ration packs that I didn't need. Anything that I didn't require to hike Ben Nevis, I put it inside the tent. So hiking up Ben Nevis, which I've never done before up until this point, it was relatively easy. And then when I got to around 700 to 800 meters, I started to notice that there's quite a bit of snow, and it was powdery snow. And powdery snow isn't good because you just sink into it, and the snow was above knee height, so I couldn't get anywhere, and it was taking so long to continue moving forward to the summit. Unfortunately, I never ended up getting to the summit. I got to around 1,100 meters, and the summit of Ben Nevis is approximately 1,300 meters, so I got very close, but unfortunately I didn't make it. I saw people coming down the mountain and they had crampons and ice axes, so I thought if they're more experienced than me, they've got the gear and they're coming down, then I should probably do the same, since I'm not as experienced and I don't have the kit and equipment like crampons. I only had micro spikes, but they didn't do anything since it was powdery snow. When I was coming down Ben Nevis, I met a lad called Cole, and he's a stuntman who does a lot of mountaineering and winter hiking, and I was getting to know this lad quite a lot, and he actually donated £100 to SAFA, the Armed Forces charity that I was raising money for. So that was one of the biggest donations that I received, and at that point, it made me realise that total strangers are actually more generous than people that you know in real life. So I was really chuffed that, you know, this lad that I'd only met for 15 minutes then donated £100 and supported me on this journey. So not only did I raise £100 on this day, I also raised a few more £100 because RAF Lehman then posted a video on their Instagram basically promoting my charity challenge. So that was great to get more people involved, and people were more supportive, and it was getting more attention on social media. Prior to this, I also went on the Yorkshire Post and had a photo shoot with them, and I was on the BBC. That was really good to get on the BBC, and also the Rotherham Advertiser and the Sheffield Star, the more local newspapers. I also got a mention from John Healey, a British politician who has served as Secretary of State for Defence since July 2024. I then started the West Highland Way, which is approximately 100 miles long, from the base of Ben Nevis all the way to Milngavie, north of Glasgow. So day 2, I moved from the base of Ben Nevis all the way to a town called Kinlochleven, and this was approximately 15 miles. But it's the hardest part of the West Highland Way. So the 15 miles really felt like 30 miles. This route is very flat, however, it makes it a lot harder when there's loose pebbles and stones, which makes your feet less balanced and you're more likely to go over and fall over. Even though the West Highland Way was extremely difficult, I did enjoy it. Scotland is beautiful, great scenery, great environment, also great people, which I'm going to cover in just a second. I got more support. People started buying me drinks, giving me cash in hand in certain pubs that I went into. Now 90% of this hike was done solo, however 2 of the days I did with my brother, and he helped me out significantly. I needed that moral support, especially on those days because they were really cold, really wet, disgusting terrain, and it was pretty hard, especially the further up that you are in Scotland, it is pretty tough. And he hiked with me from Tyndrum all the way to Balmoral, so covering Loch Lomond. And one of the days that I hiked with my brother, I stayed in Dún Boffi, which is just north of Loch Lomond. It was pretty scary because the night before I'd actually gone on YouTube and searched up haunted Boffi videos. So I was a bit tense walking up in the middle of the night. It must have been about 9 PM, 10 PM, up to this Boffi. I looked through the window and there was already someone in there and there was a fire on. So I was like, oh, good. At least there's someone here to keep me company. Weirdly enough, I don't know if he just didn't like me or he already had plans, but he then left the Boffi and just wild camped outside the Boffi in the cold, which I didn't see much point in doing. He did his own thing, but I talked to him for a little bit, had food with him, and I did have a bit of a scary moment though in the middle of the night. I needed a piss. I went out, I opened the door, and then I just saw glowing eyes in front of me. There must have been about 12 eyes just staring back at me. And because I had my big 1100 lumen head torch on, you know, these were glowing and these were just looking straight at me, and I was pretty scared because I was like, what on earth is that? Now I used a bit of common sense and I thought, this is probably some sort of animal, some sort of deer, but I wasn't taking any chances. I don't care what animal it was. They were running towards me. There was a few of them and I was having none of it, so I shut the door and then just never went for a piss that night and just held it in. Call me a pussy, but I'm not taking any chances because of what I'd YouTubed the day before. Now, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If my memory still stands, I completed the West Highland Way 100 miles within 6 days, and that included Ben Nevis. That's a fairly decent time to do 100 miles in with that kit, with that weight, 23 kilograms. Now, another thing that I found really challenging is that during winter along the West Highland Way, nothing is open. There's no local shops, and the only thing that I found that was open was the King's House Hotel. So I did end up having a meal and a couple drinks there, but I still wild camped outside next to the woodblock. So it's really desolate, and so the 3 days of ration packs that I started with, I had to ration them. And so I did end up having to, like I said, eat at the King's House Hotel and just use people for support that I'd find on the way. I used a couple of fast flowing rivers to top up my water. Moving from Milngavie to Glasgow took a whole day and it was pretty boring. There wasn't much going on. I went for some supplies, I got some more ration packs, got some food. I had to buy a new rain cover for my rucksack because when I climbed Connick Hill in Balmaha, it just flew off. It was that windy. It must have been 70 miles per hour wind speeds and it just flew off, never to be seen again. So I had to buy a new one. As I was heading further south towards Glasgow, I walked past the bar and it had loads of people in it. It was a Friday night, so it was fairly active. The streets were loud and vibrant. And I remembered getting pulled into one of the bars in Glasgow because I've got these 2 walking poles and my big rucksack, and it kind of attracts attention. People wonder what I'm doing, where I'm going. The most frequent question was, oh, where are you going? And I always remember saying, oh, I'm going to Snowdon, even though I was currently still in Scotland. People would constantly say, you're a bit lost, mate, which is fair enough. But I got invited to this bar and everyone started treating me like a celebrity because I've mentioned that I was on the BBC. So they started taking selfies with me and, you know, again, everyone was pissed and out of their minds, but it was still good to meet people and get that support. I got free drinks bought for me. I think I raised about £100 in that bar in cash. So that was great to, again, people supporting the charity. I then mentioned that I didn't really have anywhere to wild camp that night, and being in the south of Glasgow, it's not the safest area, and I just planned to sleep in the train station or in a bus stop, and they advised me not to do that because it's quite dangerous. So someone at the bar kindly gave me a place to stay that night. It wasn't the nicest place to stay. As you can see on the screen right now, it was a bit run down and a bit dodgy, as I'm going to explain in just a second. But it was somewhere to stay and it's safer than being out on the street. So I was very grateful for that, and it was obviously free. When I woke up in the morning, I went downstairs to greet myself, to say hello, thank you for letting me stay. And there was 3 other people. There was his mate, his son, and his son's girlfriend, and they were all drinking vodka at like 8 in the morning. 8 in the morning and everyone's pissed after already having a night out. And then they started popping pills. And I don't know what pills these were, but it was fairly dodgy. I don't know if that's just a Glasgow thing. I was very grateful that they offered me a place to stay, but I was out of there as soon as possible because I was having none of that. I wasn't getting involved with any drinking at 7, 8 in the morning or popping pills at that time. It's not my thing, right? If you're inspired by watching this video and you're a young man looking to reset, have a happier, healthier lifestyle, get back in the gym, get back on healthy eating, and become the best version of yourself, then I've created a free guide which you can find in the link in the description, and it will help you become that best version of yourself. All you have to do is give me your email and I'll send that free guide straight away, and it's going to help you improve your life. That's it for today's video. If you've enjoyed it, click on the video for part 2. It gets a lot better, a lot more tense, and there's more struggles ahead.